Riding the Angels Trail, the rewrite. February 9th, 2026. They gave me gear, of course. Can't ride the range in Purgatory without proper gear. 3 horses, piebalds of indeterminate age and disposition would be my remuda. Only one had a saddle, one as Western as could be. The others would act as pack horses unless my main mount was incapacitated. Blankets, feed bags, curry brushes, extra rawhide and leather straps in case of a need for repair. They sent me out with a tiny stove, one that worked off a paraffin tablet system. It had a sparking igniter. The stove was enough to heat a can of stew or brew a pot of coffee. What more does a man need on the trail? My saddle had a boot for a weapon more suited to a science fiction tale, where one man might have expected a Winchester lever action, or at least a Sharps carbine. My new masters had thought to provide me with 2 unlikely weapons, a Lamat 9-shot, rechambered for brass cartridge .41, and a similarly converted Lancaster Howdah pistol in .577 caliber. The Lamat had a central shotgun chamber for a 20-gauge flare cartridge. Stun wands were available, but I didn't think to take any. I was still adjusting to my new role. I got 2 cases of cans marked beef stew, 48 meals worth. I was issued 1 bag of potatoes. On my pack horses were a pup tent, prospector tools, and a full set of leathers including the classic cowboy coat. They gave me a double side pack for 1 horse. In these I found ammunition for my pistols. 1,000 rounds of 41, 100 rounds of 60 caliber, and 50 flares. There was no fanfare when I set out. The Anointed One's gate swung outward, admitting a wash of hot, dry air. I gigged my mount. My little caravan left the cool and placid ambiance of heaven. Introduction. I had both a new existence and a mission. I was a temporary angel. No superpowers or anything like that. Just a couple pistols, a few horses, and a job as big as the whole afterlife. My handler, a middle management angel named Goala, gave me only a basic briefing. Silkworm told you already that souls seldom manifest in heaven? Yes, sir, I answered. Most of the souls who reach the afterlife manifest in Purgatory. What, that's real? I asked, amazed. A nod. When they first manifest, the deities, dearly departeds to you, are just barely aware. Think of them as having the minds of cattle. It takes a while for them to recover their memories and senses of self. Why? I began, but stopped as I didn't know where to take it. The angel smiled tolerantly. Physics, we have them too. Oh, okay. All this while we'd been walking from the tube train station. The path was wide and paved with those large flat picnic stones Shim had told me were once human souls. Because they can't think for themselves for quite some time after arrival and manifestation, we assign souls like yours to ride the range looking for them. Once you gather up 50 or so, head back here to the Anointed One's gate and we'll take them off your hands. Like, I tried to understand, a cattle drive? Exactly like a cattle drive, the angel nodded. And you're the cowboy. Your job is to locate, collect, and bring here any deities you can. We're lucky that they're also hard to kill when they first manifest. They'll be like earthly cows for a month or so before they begin to recover their senses of self. You can herd them pretty easily. Of course, he smiled. If it were simple, you would gain no salvation from it. By now, I knew what he meant. I get it. I'm willing. You won't be able to get back in touch with us other than by the roads and trails that lead to the gate. He held up a finger. Unless you find an old stagecoach station, they've been out of commission for centuries. But if you find one and can fix whatever's wrong with it, you can use the telegraph office to contact us in coded text. Stagecoach station. He acted like I had admonished him for something. It's not my fault. Before Purgatory was established as a free zone, there was once a stagecoach line between the Anointed One's gate here in the northeast and the Hell Gate to the southwest. We'll issue you mounts, camping equipment, and weapons appropriate to your new duties. Find deities, round them up, bring them back safe. Why is it dangerous? I asked. Why don't you just leave the gate open? Cowboys ride down from heaven. Demons come up from Sheol. Both of you want those deities. You'll be up against some creatures smart as you, but built more like dinosaurs in earthly museums. Fast, strong, mean. Do they have guns too? I wanted to know. A headshake. Not yet, at least. I had lost most of my personal memories when I arrived. I could remember a lot of other stuff, but not who I was, what I'd done. Silkworm had explained it. I had been a sociopath or psychopath in my last life. Those types were wiped clean of their relevant memories for our protection. This new state, this job offer, was a carte blanche, a chance to redeem myself from whatever I had done to others back on Earth. So, I wondered aloud, as we entered a very large cavern bustling with activity. Will I get a chance to talk with God? Not unless you want to die again, was the answer. The Holy Presence is like a star. Mortals, even their souls, would vaporize. Didn't they teach you that in school? I searched back but could find no such data in my memory. Had I been some kind of violent, religiously themed fanatic? Ugh. If so, I had some serious atoning to do. So, ride the range, find deities, herd them north to the Anointed One's gate. Is that everything? It was. Chapter 1. Since I didn't remember my earthly name, I decided I would choose a new one. I will be Richard, like Lionheart. This small vanity made me feel pretty good. My horses and I were in a vast wooded plain. Nowhere were the trees so densely packed I could not see through them. The day was warm, but not unbearable. A slight breeze was coming up from the west. I smelled pine sap. We walked slowly through beautiful country. Creeks grew into rivers. Rivers widened and slowed, and here and there we passed likely fords. Hooking a knee around my saddle horn, I pulled my pistols to familiarize myself with their idiosyncrasies. The Lamat was of particular interest. Its design had been reworked by a genius gunsmith. Now, it could be broken like any pistol and easily reloaded. As for the Lancaster, it was a 4-barrel monster. I wondered what kind of recoil it might have. The .577 shells for it were big and imposing. Guns like this had been used to kill tigers. Scary. I wished they had sent my apprentice Angel Ass out with a Winchester lever action instead. We rode for 6 hours before I stopped beside a river to get a drink. The horses did not wait for permission. I sat on a rock near the river watching them. Though I did not expect any trouble this close to heaven, I was not going to risk losing a horse. After this stop, I began looking for a good place to make camp for the night. A rise with a hole gouged out by creek seemed perfect. I unpacked the camp stove and warmed up a can of stew. It was delicious. Fire-colored clouds on the western horizon stayed bright for an hour after the sun was gone. I leaned against a rock, watching stars appear. Wow, this was not Earth. The sky held a billion varicolored stars. Blue, white, red, orange. Their brilliance and proximity struck my earth-raised soul. These stars stood against a distant backdrop of red and blue flowing gas clouds. Staring into infinity, I fell asleep. This pleasant idyll became the pattern of my next week's travel. The forest deepened, thickened, closed around the path like a leafy arbor. There was life everywhere. Rodents shuffled in the undergrowth. These were pursued, or sometimes pursued by a colorful riot of tiny, tight-feathered dinosaurs. I saw bear paw prints in the mud where we crossed the next river. Mud can magnify print size, I knew, but these were 18 inches across. So that's what the Lancaster is for, I said to myself. A pack of hyenas, each of which was as big as a black bear, kept pace with me all through one long, stressful day. In the end, these large predators decided against an attack. I wondered why. Did my gear radiate a keep-away vibe to normal animals? That would be nice. Chapter 2. On the 10th day, I saw something beyond wonderful. In the middle distance was a long line of animals on the march. From the silhouette, I guessed they were some species of camel. I misjudged the range. When I crossed their path, however, I got a much better sense of their scale. Imagine a tapir so tall you would need a ladder truck to scratch it behind the ears. Wow. Watching these prodigal beasts march past, I began to really understand my change in state. This wasn't Earth. Instead, I was in some kind of cosmic zoo populated by all sorts of monsters. On the 20th day, I left the heavy forest. Beyond its healthy green canopy, the land dropped away in Inca terrace fashion, flat plates of hard orange stone forming a topological elevation map. From my vantage, I could see a river running southwest. I decided to follow its course as long as I could. As I descended into deep lowlands, the chimneys of ancient volcanoes rose around me in the form of cactus-wreathed mesas. In their shadows, the air was 15 or 20 degrees cooler. A month passed, and all I had so far done was follow my compass and the terrain, gradually moving to the southwest. Where were the deities, I wondered? Where were the demons? Did I really want to know? Chapter 3. Well, well, what do we have here? I had dismounted to lead my horses through a narrow defile. At its widened outlet, I stopped dead. I had run into a scene out of a horror movie. First, let me tell you, paleontologists don't know what dinosaurs looked like, how they held themselves, and how they moved. Demons. The word just popped into my thoughts unbidden. What had my handler told me? Smart as you. Shit. There were 3 vaguely humanoid creatures standing in a tight clump. Surrounding them were captors. 3 bird-like dinosaurs just a little shorter than I, some kind of raptor. Utahraptor? Hand on the butt on my lamette, I ignored these peregrine falcon-patterned non-humans. Instead, I craned my neck up at the 4th member of the demonic raiding party. This was the one who'd spoke. It was black as coal. It was also as tall as an African bull elephant. Tyrannosaurus, my mind whispered. What? The monster laughed in a most attractive baritone voice. Cat got your tongue? Feeling helpless, I answered, but my voice lacked any hint of command. Step away from those souls, I'll be taking them. The 3 small dinosaurs looked at one another and laughed. Then with purpose, they split up and began to work their way around behind me. Stop! Halt! Damn it! I had to do something. Over here, Shorty, the T-Rex commanded. I'm your opponent, and I'm about to bite your fucking head off. This is bad. Lancaster for the big one, and the Lee Mat for the others. I drew both weapons smoothly, without hesitation. That was a good thing. I had excellent reflexes. Not for the first time, I wondered what I had been in my first life. I opened up on the big one with the Lancaster. Chapter 4. I was not ready for its recoil. The big pistol made a sound like naval gunfire. I was knocked back, staggered, teetered into my horse. A stable gelding, he took my weight without protest. I spun away looking at my first target. The Rex was standing, tiny arms akimbo, blood dribbling from a gap between its gastralia. How'd you... The giant dinosaur predator keeled over to my right, like someone had cut a marionette's strings. Can't... I'm dying? Ignoring him, I turned to locate the others. One was already leaping at me from the lip of the hole. I gave him 2 shots from the Lamat. At least 1 hit. Driven off course, the dinosaur crashed to the ground beside me. A second tried from the other side. I gave him both the 2nd Lancaster shot and the 3rd round of my Lamat. The Howdagun's recoil was so bad it spun me around. It was great, good luck it did. The 3rd smaller dinosaur had almost reached me when we came face to face with each other in the aftermath of my 3rd kill. Both human and dinosaur demons said, "Shit!" I squeezed both triggers. Only the Lamat responded. The demon had a perfect hole in the feathers between his eyes. None of the enemy was trying to stand. I'd killed or crippled all 4 in about 3 seconds. Once more, gasping, sore and disheveled from the recoil of the Lancaster, I was wondering, what was I in my last life? Obviously not a peaceful man. Chapter 5. I sat near the small group of deities, cleaning my pistols, letting my horses drink. The Rex was still alive, but fading fast. Told us no angels, said it was, cough, perfect for noobs. Ah, tough luck, man, I said, and meant it. If they'd been even a little more experienced, I would be the one lying dead on the ground. So, demons came in different experience levels too? Good to know. You're lucky. You die. You come back. We die. And that was all for him. Angels came back if killed? I had heard nothing about it from my handlers. It sure would be a great perk for the job. 3 DDs wasn't enough. What was it I'd been told? About 50. Grumbling to myself, I mounted my horse and had him nudge a DD into motion. The others followed and we were off. Chapter 6. 4 days' work netted me a dozen DDs more. I was running out of stew. I might have to try my hand at hunting. There were no further encounters with demons during this time. The pain in the center of my right hand gradually faded. That Lancaster was not a weapon to use lightly. The weather changed. It rained for 2 days. The flat stone lowland between mesas became a maze of runoff channels. DDs did not react to weather. In fact, they seemed content to move with the horses. We found 6 more DDs until the runoff started to make further downhill progress problematic. I turned north then, headed uphill, but not back along my trail. My rather rudimentary map showed highlands and patches of forest to the north. At its edge was a large body of water marked sea. We hadn't gone 2 days north when I saw in the distance what looked like a city. Since I had no information on anything like that, I was curious. Our course took us close, so I diverted to get a better look. It was a ghost town. At one time, it had probably been something impressive. Tall, sloped walls surrounded it, though some of these had collapsed, whether by reason of siege or time I could not discern. The gate hinges had rusted, dropping the massive iron gates to the ground. Inside, I found little of interest. Most of the buildings were ready to blow away on a stiff breeze. The few with sturdier structures were little more than shells. I stopped to listen. All I heard was the wind. This place had been dead a long-ass time. Nothing to see here, I joked to myself. Turning away, we headed north again. The next morning, I came to a large patch of wooded country. The trees here were a weird mix of pines and maples. Near the river, there were giant willows in whose million interlaced branches nature was going on as elsewhere. Tiny dinosaurs raced along suckers between trees, pursuing tree frogs, insects, and rodents. Vipers lay in wait for these dazzlingly fletched prowlers, so there was a constant life-or-death struggle taking place overhead. Shadows crossed gaps in the foliage. I looked up to see there were hawks on patrol close to the top cover. In this close country, I found 8 more DDs. This brought my total up to 40. I was close to my quota, so I pushed on, hopeful. Chapter 7. Clouds swarmed onto the area from the north. Rain began to fall. There was no delineation between day and night this time. Dank and waterlogged, darkness lay on the land like a curse. I paused, made camp under the willows. My herd of DDs huddled with the horses, little troubled by the weather. Not as inert as they, I slept on a flat rock with the tarp over my head. The next morning was colder, wetter, and less appealing than any other day I'd spent in Purgatory. I charged the camp stove and heated my last can of stew over it. With this and a pot of coffee in my belly, I was restored. It rained off and on during the day. Since the DDs and my horses didn't seem to mind, I set off again. This time, I was secure in a slicker I found in a pack on which my tent roll's ground tarp sat. Near dark, the sky cleared near the horizon. I was treated to a magnificent sunset. So beautiful was the display that I stopped, relaxed against the cantle, slack-jawed. As I enjoyed the view, a small motion in the distance caught my eye. A line of figures against the sunset. 3 horses and 5, 10, 20 man-shaped followers. It's another agent? I speculated out loud. My horse, unused to my speaking in a sharp tone, as I usually spoke softly if at all, craned its head back to look at me through one eye. "It's okay, fella," I soothed. I camped close by for the night. There were some showers in the darkness, but it was mostly warm and mellow as humid can be. Morning brought a visitor. "Howdy." "Howdy. Name's Jeb." "Mine's Richard. Nice to meet you." "Same." We counted our combined haul of DDs, 51. "It would be enough if—" "You want to take 'em back, or should I?" the other man asked. "I'm out of stew," I answered obliquely. "Got coffee." "And I've got stew. Packed an extra crate this time." We grinned at each other. I did not sigh, though I wanted to. Trade you, my DDs for your case of stew. Done. That simple, I was out of DDs, and my new friend was heading home with a full load. That stew was good stuff. Nothing back home would have held a candle to it. Jeb went east by northeast, following my trail. I continued to the north. I wanted to look at the ocean my map said I'd find. Chapter 8. Looking back along my trail, I noticed something important. 3 cloaked figures trailing after Jeb. I dismounted, left my horses, and crept closer to see what was going on. They were demons. Colorful cloaks of feathers stirred in the breeze. Soft voices came to my hiding place. Can't let him get too far ahead. We'll have to push on through the night, one suggested. Where'd he get all those extras? Another voice asked. Dunno. Think we should take a look around? If this is a spawning zone. That was the third demon. We could get paid and eat a few and no one the wiser? What's not to like? For the 1000th time, I wished my handlers had issued me a rifle. As it was, or you could head back home. 3 heads snapped around to lock on to me. Shit! Cried 3 different voices at once. I had both weapons drawn. We looked back and forth at one another, calculating odds. Just walk away, I said, and everybody lives to fight another day. Wait, that was the third demon. I guessed he must be the smart one. That's not such a bad idea. We can take him, the first one assured his fellows. Not at this range, was the smart one's ready answer. Okay, stranger, we get the message. We'll let your buddy go. Not threatening you, of course, it added. But you might want to sleep with one eye open from now on. Oblige for the warning, stranger, I acknowledged. If we had hands, that was the second speaker. You'd be on my side, I predicted, and that was all. And that was Chapter 9. We entered a second area of willow-choked low country. Unlike the first such zone, this one lacked a population of small animals. Instead, medium-sized raptorial dinosaurs prowled the gaps. The biggest of these wasn't taller than my waist, so I watched them, but did not treat them with any special suspicion. I then found out why the life was so different here. A section closest to the river was literally thronged with spider webs whose lines were thick as my little finger. Giant spiders, I wondered. I made sure of my Lancaster's 4 barrels, and I checked on the 18-gauge flare cartridge in my Lamat. Better safe than sorry. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sound came loud in the dead air under the willows. I dismounted, led my horses away, facing backwards as I did. Nothing scary. I felt some curiosity, sure, but no real impetus to go feed myself to a monster. It wasn't spiders. I turned northwards and saw a prodigally large willow being consumed by a tent worm larva. The insect was big enough to fit 3 of me inside with plenty of segments left over fore and aft. There were more of them, 10 at least. I had hated them in life. Now I feared them in death. I gave that area a wide berth. No need to waste ammo. If they were eating DDs, it would be a different matter. I left that ugly woods for the rocky flats again. This seemed to go on forever, but was probably only a few hours. At length, I stumbled across a skeleton half exposed from a sand drift in the lee of a mesa. I dismounted, walked the length I could see to measure it in feet. 15 paces, roughly 45 feet. I thought of that dinosaur demon I had thought was a T-Rex. No, I realized. This is the real monster of the Cretaceous. I would not trust my Lancaster to stop something like that. Maybe a .50 caliber machine gun would. Leaving that pile, I was glad I had not run into something like that when it was alive. A broad river coiled through a valley athwart my path. I turned east, walked uphill to find a narrow spot. In a small patch of mid-sized sumacs, I discovered 8 DDs. Pausing to give my horses the chance to drink and eat, I walked to the edge of the grotto and looked out at the valley below. The single large meandering river had split upstream into 2 tributaries. At their confluence was a small walled town. Smoke dribbled upward from several chimneys. I so wanted to go investigate. Maybe next time. It's called Stavanger, someone behind me said in an ordinary tone of voice. It's a safe town. Chapter 10. I turned easy. A demon as tall as me was sitting on a rock just above my line of sight. Its feathers were black as night, but I saw flickers of prismatic resonance on the back of its head and neck. "Go ahead," the monster told me. "Draw your weapons if you must. I'm just here to explain what's going on." I did not pull my pistols. "Please do. That's Melifne Adonai, the middle stop between heaven and Sheol." "That's Hebrew?" "It's language. We get everything here. Things from other planets around other stars. Crazy stuff." I looked at him with curiosity rather than hate. "Why aren't we fighting?" I asked. "Because this is a neutral zone. We agree to suspend hatred and violence while we're here." "That sounds wonderfully civilized. We're not insensate beasts, you know." "Glad to hear it. Then what's the point of the place?" I asked baldly. "Trade intel? Selling skins? Ammo?" I had a sudden inspiration. "More cans of stew?" "I'm as much a visitor as you are," the black demon revealed. "But the business here lies in the salvation of souls." "Excuse me?" "Some demons try to steal souls. You already know that." "I do. But some of us bring them here instead. Sell them to angels. Everyone goes away happy." What is the transactional medium?" "You're a quick study. Angels can get something we can't. We're not tool users like you." The demon showed me its forepaws. They did not seem well adapted for object manipulation. But we really want it. And that is, unless it's a secret, blood. It's the mystery of the blood. Because angel blood has a tiny trace of the holy presence in it. We crave it, but it's difficult to refine. Takes a lot of angelic blood. "So angels trade their blood for human souls?" I asked, my mind trying to accept and reject all at once. "Exactly. But what was it? If the end was the saving of souls, then the end justifies the means, right?" The demon watched my expression change. "You're a sharp one, aren't you? Demons working to save souls so they can trade them for angel blood. And at odds with our more traditional path cousins. Angels and demons working together toward a common end? Yes. That's scary. Is it?" Chapter 11. There were communal corrals to leave my deities in temporarily. Considering the number involved, I was fairly sure it was safe. The horses and I walked the central street of this strange mix of fortress town and Wild West adventure hub. Watching, asking, interacting, I gradually attained a working knowledge of the system in place. As advertised, this was a town where angels rubbed feathers with demons. The disconnect from all my programming was intense. I was keyed up, waiting for the axe to fall. There were several means of transaction. For one, an angel could give blood. One leader earned him 1 DD. Or he could mine minerals in the monster-haunted Worstlands. Townies paid handsome rewards for gold and silver, or topazes. There were bodyguard jobs open too. The going payout for one of these was 1 DD per day on the clock. I discovered the dark secrets during my first night. An angel could give blood and be paid with either a DD or a night at the inn with meal and bath provided. There were backroom high-stakes poker games where human souls were bet and won or lost in 100-strong lots. My map put the shores of the Northern Ocean 500 miles away. Or, I reasoned, I could try a little prospecting to see what turned up. "You're safe in the town," the black demon had told me before we parted ways. "But out of sight of the gates, watch your back. Not everyone follows the rules out here. Wild West 101. I ran into angels every few miles. I saw many demons, but none came close. There, on the edge of a mesa, above the scree, was an overhang marked with the hexagonal pattern of slow-cooling basalt. I dismounted and the horses followed behind. At the face, I found sections cracked away. Inside of one of these, I saw a faint glint of crystal. Freeing it wasn't a simple task, but I managed. It was gold. Most prospectors panned in the rivers, looking for color. Then they'd pan upriver, searching for that cliff or pool from where the color came. I just looked for old volcanic necks. Anywhere quartz was, gold or other heavy metals might be found. Unsure if I was being watched, I satisfied myself with a couple large nuggets and moved on. I did mark the site with my compass and a bit of dead reckoning. Soon, I found another place where ancient basalt had cracked away. Inside was a streak of color. Once more, I knocked off a few bits and marked it on my map. I hoped that to anyone watching, it would seem I was just poking around, dependent on good luck. 11 hours later, my sample's valise was heavy with rich gold and silver ore. Sunlight gone, I camped for the night on a small rise. I heated a can of stew, that stuff is way too good for canned food, and ate it while admiring the stars. There were 50 fuel pellets left, and 18 cans of stew. I told myself that I better get to work. I had to generate a herd of 50 DDs for transport before that stew ran out. Riding back to the town, whose name meant fleeing from God, I formulated a tentative strategy. Prospect for gold and silver nuggets. Exchange them for gear, supplies, and DDs. The idea that some angels were lazy was not lost on me. My question was, is trading angelic blood for DDs morally justifiable? Wasn't that system merely a way to make angels work for infernal authority? What do they do with angel blood, I wondered? Drink it? Use it as an ingredient for some kind of potion, drug, or cure? I could not escape the suspicion that, as in capitalism, what you get is never worth what you pay for it. That's the fallacy of supply and demand economics. It only serves those at the top. Somehow, the demons were making more from those transactions than the angels. Of this I was convinced. The town had a marvelous general store. First, however, I had to take my finds to the assay office for conversion to the local cash. "Where'd you find this?" the demon at the desk asked when she read the results. "This is good stuff." "Nowhere special," I told her. "I just got lucky." "Pretty damn lucky if you ask me," she said, handing me 400 brass coins in a hefty weighted leather bag. "You find more? Trade it here." Dalrun's geology supply down at Phoenix Street doesn't pay as well. Armed with cash, I headed to the big general store to see what I could purchase with it. There was plenty to see and do there. Galina's Hobby Shop was the name on the sign. I walked in past the bouncers, looked up at the aisle signs that indicated what could be found in any particular row or section. In short order, I bought a fairly pricey pair of Zeiss/Poro binoculars. Then, I purchased a saddle blanket, a second 10-gallon hat, 100 feet of rawhide rope, and another 100 feet of hempen rope. I looked longingly at a lever-action cartridge reloader, but its price was too high for my liking. As I headed back toward the cashier counter, I saw what I had been looking for, a shiny, good-as-new Winchester 76 in 50 to 90 caliber. Peering at the dangling price tag, I took a half step back. 300 doubles? No way was I ready for that. Thus far, my whole shopping costs were 75 brass two-face coins, also called doubles. I wanted to purchase DDs. I could prospect for enough to buy the carbine later. Sighing, I decided it was time to visit the DD corrals. Leaning over the top rail of a stoutly built rail fence, the on-duty slaver looked away and spat to one side. 50 doubles per DD. I don't haggle. You want a bargain? Head out and find your own. 2,500 doubles for 50 DDs? After the price on that Winchester, it didn't seem particularly steep. I think I will. Thanks for the advice. Chapter 12. I needed those binoculars. I repeated yesterday's prospecting circle, stopping at each spot in turn to glean a few more nuggets. At noon, I lay on a low ridge, scanning the land all around for signs of being followed or tracked. Immediately, I noticed glints of shiny metal at about 500 yards. This wasn't treasure, however. It was fellow travelers. I was being tailed by a group of potential enemies. So I made camp, heated some stew, sat eating it, planning my next move. I sat there a while watching the hills and flats for signs of activity. Fleas and biting flies this land had in plenty. There were quick lizards, tiny wingless groundhawks, vipers, centipedes as long as my calf, and scorpions big enough to battle with small dogs, with hope of winning. There. Another glint of sun off metal. I began to wonder if a better buy might be one of the sharp sniper rifles I'd passed by in my search for a lever-action Winchester. Those came with blue-tinted sun goggles. I could probably hit a man-sized target at 500 yards with one of those once I got used to it. Maybe I was being paranoid? How could I be certain? Did demons jump claims here? Was I going to be robbed at gunpoint? No. A demon's paws could not manage a human-friendly firearm. Night falls quick in a cloudless sky. The sun passed the horizon and, just like that, it went from sunny evening to star-stuffed gloaming. I threw some sticks and a lump of coal on my small fire. Next, I wrapped my changes of clothes and foul weather gear in my tarp, shaped it to look like a sleeping camper. Satisfied with the quality of my lure, I draped the new saddle blanket over my shoulders. Then I crouched behind a pile of rocky scree to await developments. It did not take long. Tiny sounds caught my ear as a trio of ambushers crept up the slope toward my camp. Peering over the lip of my rocky hideout, I saw one of the three stand, and from its shadow, a long rifle barrel emerged. The night crashed with flame and fire as the shadowed enemy put 4 rounds into the man-like lump of clothes. In the dazzling flares of rifle fire, I clearly made out the identity of the shooter. It was an angel. When my bundle didn't move, the other 2 ambushers strode into my camp to examine the body. They were demons. My mind went cold. This was beyond bad. Demons and angels were working together to dry gulch other angels. My mission changed right there on the spot. Heavenly authority needed to know this. "He's not in it," one of the demons hissed, scattering my carefully crafted decoy with taloned feet. "Fuck!" I let the angel who'd tried to kill me in cold blood have the first barrel of my Lancaster. Boom! The sound was impossibly loud in the rocky ring around the mesa's base. Then I stood, unloading my Lee mat at the 2 demons on short order. One dropped dead on the spot. The other screamed bloody murder, rolled on the ground, trying to cover its wounded shoulder with a clawed paw. "Leave no enemy alive," whispered a new, weirdly familiar voice in my thoughts. "They were going to kill you. Don't let them get it right next time." I stood over the wounded demon, eyes cold as Arctic freeze. I gave it 2 bullets in the brain. Then I kicked the inert one and realized I'd killed it on the first shot. Now for the traitorous angel. What do you do when those pledged to protect you work for the enemy, I wondered. The new voice in my head knew the answer. Kill them. The system was corrupt. The question was, how far up did the disease of corruption go? The angel wasn't dead yet. Heavenly authority had made us tougher and more resilient than we'd been in life. "Help! A fella, out!" Thinking it over, I missed the moment. He died in the middle of his plea. I searched them, of course. The angel had a banknote for 500 doubles in his vest pocket. I took it, and his weapons and hat. Chapter 13. Sitting out of the firelight. I weighed my options. Was the heavenly authority cogent of this perversion of the system? Was it my task to inform? What if I went back and the gate won't open? What if I went back and was told heaven already knew? That stopped me. Does heaven know everything? How long does it take for the Holy Bureau to move on an issue? Was one day in heaven equal to one day in purgatory? The obvious route was to glean my 50 DDs and then return. At that point, perhaps I could talk with my handler. I slept in the shadow of my scree hideout, worrying the bone of what I had learned. Angels were no longer working for God. They worked for themselves. At least that seemed to be the case in purgatory. That's got to be some kind of crime, I reasoned. I made a decision. Whatever scheme the demons were pulling here, it wasn't cool with God. If it had been, I would have been informed about it. Someone, or some entity, had twisted the entire system to its purpose, not God's. Dawn discovered me cleaning my pistols, counting my ammo, wondering where to go next. First, I would turn in gold for demonic cash. Then, I would buy 50 DDs out of bondage. I'd take a circuitous route northward, skim the infinite walls, sneak toward the Anointed One's gate with my haul. But first, I'd have a can of stew. Refreshed, I made my rounds again, checking my 6 at every stop. Working with one eye in the back of my head, I chipped away at my prospected veins. The bags were full when I loaded up and set off for the demon town. If the prices were the same as my last visit, I could expect enough doubles to both buy 50 DDs and that Winchester. I preferred the steadiness of the sharps, but I suspected I'd need rate of fire more than long-range accuracy. The demon at the assay office was a stranger. "You're a new face," she told me, not yet looking at the bags. "Was here yesterday," I replied. Different girl was at the desk. "Ah, Ile Gad. She called in sick today. Only now did she examine my finds." "This is all grade A ore. Where'd you find it?" "Here and there," I allowed. "Is that important?" "Not really. I guess Ile told you to come here if you found anything else?" "Yep." The demon walked to a file cabinet, riffled through the folders in the top drawer. "Ah, here's the report. You're Richard?" "Yep." Whatever worries she had seemed laid to rest. My samples were weighed and rated. This time, instead of a sack of brass coins, I was issued a banknote for 5,000 doubles. "General stores will accept this as legal tender," she promised. "But this much isn't going to be broken down at any of the small shops. You'll need to cash this in by making purchases at Galina's." "Obliged." "Watch your back," the pleasant demoness added. "Word gets around quick. You can't trust anyone around here." As I walked outside, I heard her add, "Buy what you need and get out of town. Don't linger. And come back here with anything you find." Chapter 14. Galina's was bustling. I kept one hand on my wallet at all times. I purchased the Winchester and 1,000 rounds of .50 caliber for it. Though I skipped the sharps this time, I did buy a pair of those glare-reducing shades, just in case. Next, I headed to the slave corral and bought 50 DDs on the spot. These were older types, their facial features firming, limbs becoming more human. Following the demoness's advice, I immediately left town. I was followed. This I expected. I was in a slow, motion race against time. I must push on, night and day, gain a large enough lead to escape my pursuers. The good part was mobility. On horseback, I was still slightly faster than most demons could walk over long distances. I had yet to see a demon running, but if I must stop to eat on occasion, I guessed they would have to and also. The sun was already past noon when I crossed a ridge between two valleys. Once my charges were safely out of sight, I turned back to search the skyline behind with binoculars. A line of figures came into view. I counted 7. The distance was too great to identify them as either demon or angel, but I feared the worst. What if an angel decided to become an assassin? If so, he might be humping one of those Sharp's sniper rifles. And a better telescope than my Zeiss/Poro binocs. I returned to my horses and DDs, intent on widening my lead. This next valley was grassy, partly forested, rich with slender streams and a single, wider river, all heading to the north. I spent the rest of the day dropping to the valley floor in gradual increments, avoiding cliffs and steep slopes. Sundown felt like a reward. I pushed the hat back off my head, sighed happily at the suddenly cooler air. The terrain got more complex, but everything still sloped downward toward the spot on my map identified as C. Feeling a bit safer than before, I slowed our progress a bit while I looked for a likely campsite. A medium-sized lake appeared around a blind corner. Along its marshy banks, a procession of large lifeforms patrolled, long-necked dinosaurs. Were these demons too, I wondered? Or, like the giant tapirs, just part of the landscape? I slowed to a stop, led my DDs into a cul-de-sac. Within, I found a spring, a tiny lake, and a veritable host of small lifeforms engaged in the business of survival. The groundhogs were fearless predators of the many bugs inhabiting this minuscule paradise. Some ran through my little camp, chasing spiky beetles of species with which I was not familiar. Well away from the spring were the several entrances to a colony of finger-length ants. These, too, ignored me. Examining their lair more assiduously, I saw they were slavers. Soldiers escorted a crowd of aphids from the holes, heading toward a clump of woody bushes. Once I was guaranteed that the area held no great dangers to myself and my horses, I peered over the ridges establishing its perimeter. No sign of my tail. That meant nothing, of course. Walking to my horses, I pulled out the camp stove, lit a paraffin fuel lozenge, and made a pot of coffee. Then I heated up a can of stew. Feeling pretty good, I buried my empties, cold, camped it under the billion bright stars. Chapter 15. The following day was my most exciting one so far. First, I encountered a lone angel. He was big. So big, he walked to avoid stressing his mount. Trailed by 14 DDs, he was obviously doing his job. Howdy? Howdy. Dilmau. Richard. You head south, keep an eye peeled. I'm being followed. He shrugged expressively. It happens. After a long pause, he added, Got any tobacco? I shook my head. Gave it up when I got here. Doc in my last life said I had to quit or it'd kill me. Guess he was right. Another long pause. Dilmau broke it first. Heh, good one. He was out of stew. I had 13 cans left. With a heavy heart, I gave him 5 of mine. Much obliged. You headed north? I wanted to get a look at that sea on my map. Not many DDs that way. There's another free town at the Narrows. His damnut Acorona. That's a mouthful. Well, I ain't on the naming board. This time, it was me breaking a smile. Good one. They've got a saloon there, Dilmau told me. The booze and food ain't tainted. That's on purpose. Brings us angels in. But they ain't got coffee. Some kind of chicory garbage. Just don't get into a poker game. Sharpers and cheats abound. I don't gamble. But thanks for the warning. I was looking for a place to make camp when the next event transpired. Help! The sound was low, but I caught it. Carefully, deliberately, I dismounted. Drawing my pistols, I headed into the brush to see what was going on. It was an angel. Dirty and disheveled, possibly wounded, he lay at the base of a small cliff. I stopped to survey the scene. It was close in that chaparral tangle. The angel's clothes were torn. He looked to be in bad shape, but I had just learned to distrust the look of things. Looks like you took a bad tumble, I observed. Water? Sure. Before I turned away, I glanced at his gun belt. The straps were off his pistols. The ammo loops were full. Food for thought. I grabbed a water bag. This time, I took a circular route, exploring the walls, searching the rim of the little canyon. I was soft on my feet, but the 2 demons waiting for their cue heard me anyway. Shit! He's over, yelled the first before I plugged him with the Lancaster. The second demon charged me. I gave him the second Lancaster barrel. My hand was numb. My shoulder felt like it had been stomped. I stretched it to ease the pain. That odd motion pulled me out of line with the angelic dry gulcher's first shot. Chips of rock spattered on my vest. I drew a bead with the Lamat. My foe rotated his wide-loop Winchester to reload. It's quick and effective for the expert, but it's too slow against a double-action revolver. I put 2 slugs into his centerline before he got off his next shot. His bullet struck my sprained shoulder like a sledgehammer. Ah! Now my enemy was on the ground, trying to recock his carbine. The Lamat steady in my other hand, I drilled him with 4 more rounds of .41. He fell back, inert. I felt like falling too. His bullet must have struck bone. In agony, I shuffled over to kick my reclining assassin face up. He had sores on his arms. I knew those. Signs of meth addiction. I pulled his Winchester out of his grasp. Then I staggered back to my horse to check my damage in my shaving mirror. I wasn't bleeding like a stuck pig, at least, but the hole was blue and I still felt like a man being eaten by a dragon. Using my free hand, I tied a rag around the wounded shoulder for a sling. Then I squatted and, more due to patience than anything else, reloaded my own weapons. The town. I would have to expose myself to enemies. The other town had a surgeon. Maybe this new town had one too? Too hurt to mount my horse, I simply headed off in the right direction, buzzed with pain. It wasn't like I was going to get any sleep. Might as well move while I could. Chapter 16. You're lucky I found you. I opened my eyes to see an angel bending over me. Richard. He smiled. Philia. Good thing I run into you. It sure was. Philia was good at first aid and field surgery. While I cried, he dug that bullet out of my shoulder, staunched the flow of blood. Used a compress and sling to immobilize the wound. Don't think you'll die. We're plenty tough. Good. Good to know. He gave me water and helped me to my feet. You gonna tell me what happened to you? Should I? I did anyway. Too many angels falling from grace these days, he lamented with me. Glad you ain't one of them. So, that town a good place for me to recover? His damned Acorona? I admired his command of the language. No way could I say that right. They're honest there. A tiny town of virtuous demons. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Virtuous? You know about the town back there? I asked, thumb over one shoulder. Like any town back on Earth, good and bad rubbing shoulders. But Last Chance is a good place. Virtuous pagans end up there, if they're lucky. They don't tolerate anything that would hurt their decision to be good. They've got gamblers, of course, but they bet money and supplies, not deedies. It sounded too good to be true. But the chicory coffee substitute is awful. I'll keep that in mind. Chapter 17. You want a cup of joe with that? The waitress asked me. I almost said yes. Then I remembered what Dilmau said. Just water, please. Your funeral, she shrugged, walking to the counter to pour a glass full. The demons here were of a type. Smaller, slimmer, better, groomed than those I'd met so far. Still, the food was good. I have a warm spot in my soul for bacon and eggs. Dunno why. Sandy might be able to help you with that shoulder, she offered when she returned. Sandy? Mm-hmm. He's got a suite at the back. Tell the guard I said it's okay. Name's Delilah. When I finished, I took her up on that offer. There was a back door, then a courtyard, then another annex. Guarding the door to this was a most imposing demon. 3 times the size of his fellow townies, he was tall and taciturn. Delilah sent me. Name's Richard. Got shot? Heh, bet it hurts, the monster said as it got out of my way. Much obliged, I replied, opening the door. The doctor's office was more of a clatch. There were benches and chairs all around a central examination table. Someone did a nice job field dressing this, was the doctor's decision. Let me guess, Dilmau? Yup, found me half dead and saved me. A melodic sigh. That kind of story makes me glad I'm who I am. Sandy cleaned the wound again, restitched it, pronounced it healing well. No infection. I got up, taking time to look at the other people in the office. Several humans, a few demons, and a creature of a type I didn't recognize. One of the humans noticed the direction of my interest. Fidaflakel is a Jowan Sagadal, talks in what Doc calls microwaves. Doesn't speak the language yet. Doc set up a radio receiver and translator. Doc's damn smart. The strange creature turned toward him. It had no face. A series of warm waves touched my face. The radio speaker on the wall made static sounds. In them, I could hear words. Greetings, Earthling. I am the 8th clone of 43.7 AM. You may call me Fidafleckle if you like. I was floor-struck. A real, live, sort of alien intelligence. Pleased to meet you, Fidafleckle. I am Richard. There was a company store in town. Much smaller and less copious of brand, its goods were twice the price of the last town. But the quality was good, and they accepted the coin I'd earned while prospecting. I had their gunsmith look over the Winchester I'd taken from the dead angel. 25 doubles, he said after giving it a thorough cleaning and check of the mechanism. Much obliged. I collected my horses and gear and was heading out of the nice little town when a demon waved me to a halt. Erto. Richard. Head west. There's a big canyon with an alkali lake at the bottom. It's a spawning point. I heard that word before, I let him know. A lot of deities that die in wars spawn at specific spots, he told me. Dead Lake is one of those. Any particular reason you want me to head that way? I pressed, sensing something odd at play. Demons know it's a spawning point too. Some will be waiting. I figure you'll know what to do when you get there. Much obliged. Chapter 18. It was good advice. A gaggle of demons was harassing a scattered population of deities into a small enough area to begin to herd southwest. This was a job for the Winchester. Wishing I'd practiced with it, I laid it on a flat rock and chose my shots carefully. One little, two little, demons collapsed to the ground, completely surprised. 3, 4, 5. The others scattered. It was a small victory, but I could not rest on its laurels. Those demons I'd driven off would be back. This exceptional bounty of over 100 DDs could not be ignored. My shoulder was not yet fully healed. I had to take it easy, despite the urgency of my situation. 2 hours later, I'd got them all into range of the horses. Once close, they naturally followed the placid equines. Now to head northeast toward the Anointed One's gate. We were well on the way when a DD walked up to my horse and spoke. I was startled. It was the first time that had happened. "Hey, next time you make a pot of coffee, cut me in, man." He was almost complete. His soft, sluggish qualities sloughed off, leaving a very human-looking man. "Sure, I don't mind. You got a name?" He tried to remember, but could not find one. Don't let it bother you," I soothed. "Happened to me, too. You'll be fine." He was the only one who came to during the ride. The rest maintained their inert, cow-like placidity. We camped soon after. I shared my stew with him, and its effect was immediate. "Giola Rua!" he suddenly shouted. "Excuse me?" "It's my name," he said triumphantly. "Man, does that feel good?" I could imagine. My original name had never come back. I did not tell him. "So, you remember anything about firearms?" I asked hopefully. "Fire? I think so. That's a carbine, right?" I nodded. "And you have pistols in your holsters?" "Yup, you got it." "Why would you ask unless—" I watched the light come on. "Yup, could use an extra hand with a rifle." "You got ammo for this antique?" I nodded again. "Mind if I move off and practice a little with it?" "Not at all," I said, handing him the bandolier and the empty stew can. "Make a good target." Chapter 19. It turns out that he was a quite good shot. I let him keep the Winchester. Then I outfitted him in my spare suit of clothes. Since his skin was light enough to be at risk from the sun, I gave him my spare hat too. The only other footwear I had was the pair of docksiders I used when doing chores around the fire. We made it to the forest zone without incident. Then I ran out of stew. Fortunately, there was plenty of game. It was 1,000 miles to the Anointed One's gate. I could not push all that fast. I'd been through a lot and wasn't at my best. I needed more sleep than before. So we took it slow, always stopping to camp for the night. Giola took over the hunting and preparing duties. This helped me recover quicker. I estimated the gate was only 500 miles away on the 30th evening of our meeting. That was also the night we were attacked by an army of demons, led by a trio of corrupt angels. I saw them coming when I used the binoculars to search the Southwest province. "Looks like we're going to be in a war," I told my new friend. "We've got good weapons, but they outnumber us by 50 or more." "Lucky we use the same cartridge," was his reaction. "I won't need to worry about running low." We decided to stay and wait for them. After all, we already knew the terrain, had a good position from which to fight. "You're the artillery," I told him. "I'll shoot anything comes close." "Sounds like a plan." Darkness claimed the land. We sat, listening to the night. A stone skidded down a low slope. They were here. Time to go into action. Chapter 20. Demons were sneaking along the creek bed. I gave them 4 rounds from my lamat and dodged back into the rocks. Careless of the cries of their wounded, more demons came from the opening, formed a skirmish line, and advanced together. I picked them off as they came into view. A few tried to circle around. I heard Giola's Winchester fire. I was reloading when 12 more demons made a rush up the creek bed. This was matched by a flank attack of another dozen. When I stood to open up, bullets whizzed past my face. I made note of the flashes, moved in cover to trap one of the shooters. He died with his back turned. "Fuck! He's over here!" a demon shouted. I plugged him too and ran doubled over for the little canyon where my friend was fighting off an onrush. Bullets spanged off the stones on either hand. "Got him? Missed him! Get Shem's rifle!" "You get it!" 4 demons charged out of the darkness. One got a .577 Lancaster in the face. He blew backwards, crumpled and broken. That sort of threw cold water on the rush. One went to ground, one turned and ran, and the other one leaped on me, talons spread wide. I gave him the second barrel at point-blank range. The big round literally blew his head clean off. A bullet clipped through my shirt. Another one holed my hat. I fled, flinging lead in my wake as I ran. My gunshot shoulder ached. I could not give it rest. A lull emboldened me to reload the LeMat. On a lark, I flipped up the hammer extension, ready to fire the flare. We needed that light to shoot by. It was both good and bad. I did not get to launch it into the air. As I raised it, a demon larger than the others loomed out of the night. A match for the enormous skeleton I'd paced off in the desert, this living nightmare was 3 times as tall as I. No time to think. I pulled triggers. The 18-gauge flare and the Lancaster went off together. My left shoulder was on fire. I almost dropped the Lancaster because of it. The monster dinosaur demon, fire spitting from its chest, staggered in reverse, fell back on its haunches, rethought its life choices. Giola was shouting something in Gaelic. I have no idea what it was. His Winchester ran dry in the middle of a stream of shots. Dazed by pains, I stumbled in his direction and ran into the back of the third angel. We fell together, but the muzzle of my LeMat was already jammed into the fat over his kidney. I fired till the LeMat ran empty. Then I stood, switched weapons, the Lancaster moving to my good hand. How many shots had it fired? I realized then that I was running in a small pack of demons, all of us headed for Giola's last known position. I fired my big Lancaster twice. Each time a demon fell as if poleaxed. Now, I was out of ammo. I had to reload quick. The Winchester opened up again. I heard an angel cry out in pain. I crossed the opening of his hideout and saw Giola struggling corpse a core with the last angel. With no ammo in my weapons, I hurled myself at the evil angel, pistol, whipping the back of his head with the barrels of my Lancaster. He fell, fingers tearing at Giola's borrowed shirt. Now I did take time to reload. First, the Lancaster. Break. Dump the spent cartridges, fumble 4 slugs out of my pocket, insert, slam the weapon closed. I could hear my companion sliding .42 into his Winchester. Click, click, click. Ready to fight again, we waited in silence for the next rush. It never came. Due to heavy clouds in the east, morning was in no particular hurry. As the light came up, we counted the results of our firefight the night before. 43 demons lay on the creek, on the sand, on the rocks. 3 angels were also sprawled on the bloody sand of the creek bed. There was no sign of the others. We looted the fallen, gleaned a pair of 44s, a Winchester 45-75, and lo and behold, a Sharps hunting rifle in 50 to 140, and a Colt's Peacemaker pistol in .41. We tied our newly swollen armory to the horses, cleaned our personal weapons, fell asleep almost immediately afterward. Chapter 21. No sight. I could remember filled me with joy like that of the Anointed One's gate. We led our DDs to the gate, watched it slowly swing open. Guards, standing just inside, waved us through. Unlike us, these were in full body armor and armed with modern assault rifles and RPG launchers. Giving over our charges to the waiting handlers was difficult. We had become bonded to our DDs and were loath to leave them. A coordinator came from the nearby office to debrief me. I started to tell him everything. Eyes wide, he stopped me, led me inside, where a steno wrote it all down. "This is incredible, I had no idea," was his eventual reaction. "I know," I agreed. It was hard for me to understand that angels are working for demons. A giant scam. "You miss my point," he corrected me. "A town of virtuous pagans. Who could have imagined such a thing? But we send you out," I heard him say. "With the greatest gift of all, free will." "You mean?" "I most certainly do," he amplified. "Some fall, some are ready converts to the enemy's side. Some few." He grinned at me for a second. "Do the right thing, despite all the temptations." "What should I do now?" I asked, mind a whirl. "Now you head over to medical so they can fix you up. Then you sleep for a week, you've earned it." "But..." His smile did not fade. And then we send you out again. This completes Part 1. WBC, February 13th, 2026, Sharpsburg, Pennsylvania. All rights reserved.